In this video, you will discover the 10 secrets from the book How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie. The book was written in 1936, but is still extremely valid, and these tips will change your way of interacting with people for the rest of your life. At the end of this video, you will know precisely the secrets to build great relationships in all parts of your life: work, family, couple, business. The book is built in 4 parts, and I selected the best secrets in each part. Part 1. Techniques in handling people. Secret number 1. Do not criticize people, condemn, or complain. The psychologist Frederick Skinner showed that an animal rewarded for good behavior will learn more rapidly and retain what it learns more effectively than an animal punished for bad behavior. The same applies to humans. Humans are not creatures of logic, but are creatures of emotions like pride and vanity. Do not criticize anyone. Criticism puts a person on the defensive and makes him strive to justify himself. It also wounds a person's pride, hurts his sense of importance, and arouses resentment. Let's see an example. The famous test pilot, Bob Hoover, was returning to his home in Los Angeles from an air show in San Diego. At 300 feet in the air, both engines suddenly stopped. He managed to land the plane. Although nobody was hurt, the plane was badly damaged. When inspecting the airplane, he found out that the propeller plane had been fueled with jet fuel rather than gasoline. Upon returning to the airport, he asked to see the mechanic who had serviced his airplane. When realizing he had just caused the loss of a very expensive plane and could have caused the loss of 3 lives, the young felt terrible and cried. He expected Hoover's anger for his carelessness. Hoover didn't tell off the mechanic. He didn't even criticize him. Instead, he put his big arm around the man's shoulder and said, "To show you I am sure that you'll never do this again, I want you to service my 51 tomorrow." The key lessons to take away from this secret are: instead of condemning people, try to figure out why they are how they are, why they do what they do. That's a lot more profitable and intriguing than criticism, and it brings sympathy, tolerance, and kindness. To know all is to forgive all. Any fool can criticize, condemn, and complain, and most fools do. But it takes character and self-control to be understanding and forgiving. Secret number 2. Arouse in the other person an eager want. If you regularly go fishing, it is probably obvious to you that even if you like strawberries and cream, you would not put strawberries and cream as a bait, but rather a worm, because fishes like worms, not strawberries. This is kind of common sense. If you want to attract fishes, you must offer them what they want: worms. It is the same with humans. One secret of success lies in the ability to get the other person's point of view and see things from that person's angle, as well as from your own. This is so simple, so obvious that anyone should see it at a glance, yet 90% of the people on this earth ignore it, 90% of the time. Hence, try to think always in terms of other people's point of view and see things from their perspective. Put the other person's wants before your own. Convince this person of how something can benefit them and arouse in the other person an eager want. However, this is not to be understood as manipulating that person so that he will do something that is only for your benefit and his detriment. Each party should gain from the negotiation. Let's see an example. A father couldn't get his 3-year-old daughter to eat breakfast food. The usual reprimanding, pleading, persuading methods were all useless. So the parents asked themselves, how can we make her want to do it? The little girl loved to imitate her mother to feel big and grown up. So one morning they'd put her on a chair and let her make the breakfast food. The father came into the kitchen exactly while she was stirring the cereal. She said, "Look, Daddy, I am making the cereal this morning." That day she ate 2 helpings of the cereal without any coaxing because she was interested in it. She had achieved a feeling of importance, a way of self-expression. The key lessons from this second secret are: to influence a person, talk to him about what he wants and show him how he can get it. Influencing others requires arousing in them a strong desire to act. Part 2. Ways to make people love you. Secret number 3. Become genuinely interested in other people. If you have a dog, you certainly notice that a dog gives you nothing but love. This is why we love them so much. It is the same with humans. Greet people with animation and enthusiasm. Show them how much you are happy to see them, as does a dog when it sees you. People are not interested in you. They are not interested in me either. They are interested in themselves. We like people who admire us. You can make more friends in 2 months by becoming genuinely interested in other people than you can in 2 years trying to get people interested in you. At the time the book was written, the New York Telephone Company made a detailed study of telephone conversations to find out which word is the most frequently used. Guess what? It is the personal pronoun I. It was used 3,900 times in 500 telephone conversations. Let's see an example. Mr. Walters, a bank employee, had to prepare a confidential report on a certain corporation. For that purpose, he interviewed the president of that corporation. While he was in the president's office, a young woman put her head through the door and told the president that she didn't have any stamps for him that day. "I'm collecting stamps for my 12-year-old son," the president explained. Mr. Walters ignored the remark, stated his mission, and began asking questions. The president was vague, general, and unclear. He obviously didn't want to talk, and apparently nothing could change his attitude. The interview was brief and unproductive. Later that day, back in his office, Mr. Walters recalled that the foreign department of his bank collected the stamps from letters coming in from every continent. The next afternoon, he called the president and told him that he had some stamps for his boy. When Mr. Walters came back, he was welcomed with enthusiasm. The president radiated smiles and goodwill. They spent half an hour talking stamps and looking at the picture of his boy, and then he devoted more than an hour of his time to giving Mr. Walters every bit of information he knew. Then he called in his subordinates and associates to collect even more information. He loaded Mr. Walters with facts, figures, and reports. Mr. Walters had a scoop. The key lessons from this are: people think only of themselves. We all love those who admire us. So for others to be interested in you, you must first sincerely be interested in them. Secret number 4. Make the other person feel important, and do it sincerely. In human nature, the desire to be important is the deepest urge. The deepest principle is the craving to be appreciated. Everyone wants the approval of those with whom they come in contact. They want recognition of their true worth. They want a feeling that they are important in their little world. They don't want to listen to cheap, insincere flattery, but they do crave sincere appreciation. Hence, always make the other person feel important. Dale Carnegie gives the example of a man who was landscaping the estate of a famous attorney. The attorney came out to give him a few instructions. The man said, "You have a lovely hobby. I've been admiring your beautiful dogs. I understand you win a lot of prizes every year for them." "Yes," the judge replied. "I do have a lot of fun with my dogs. Would you like to see my kennel?" He spent almost an hour showing him his dogs and the prizes they'd won. He even brought out their pedigrees and explained about the bloodlines responsible for such beauty and intelligence. Finally, he asked, "Do you have any small children?" "Well, yes, I have a son." "Well, wouldn't he like a puppy?" the judge inquired. "Well, yes." "I'm going to give him one," the judge announced. He started to tell the man how to feed the puppy, and then he paused. "You'll forget if I tell you. I'll write it down for you." So the judge went in the house, typed out the pedigree and feeding instructions, and gave the man a puppy worth several $100s, and an hour and 15 minutes of his valuable time, largely because the man had expressed his honest admiration for his hobby and achievements. The key lessons to take away from this secret are: do unto others as you would have others do unto you. If you want to be appreciated, feel important, worthwhile, give that feeling to others first. Part 3. How to win people to your way of thinking. Secret number 5. You can't win an argument. In a few seconds, I will explain why. But if you like this video, feel free to give it a like. Now let's see why you can't win an argument. There is only one way to get the best of an argument, and that is to avoid it. Most of the time, an argument ends with each of the participants more firmly convinced than ever that he is absolutely right. You can't win an argument, you can't, because if you lose it, you lose it. And if you win it, you lose it as well. Let me explain. Suppose you triumph over the other man and shoot down his argument and prove that he is wrong. Then you will feel fine, but what about him? You make him feel inferior, you've hurt his pride. He will resent your triumph and keep the same opinion. Hence, avoid arguments like you would rattlesnakes or earthquakes. Dale Carnegie illustrates this secret with one of his friends, Mr. Patrick O'Hare, a truck salesman for the White Motor Company. Patrick would not sell many trucks because he would argue a lot with customers who would complain or make remarks about the trucks he would sell or say the competitor's trucks were better. The more Patrick argued against the competitor, the more the prospect argued in favor of it and convinced himself on the competitor's product. Patrick won a lot of arguments those days. He often walked out of the office saying, "I told that bird something sugar." It had told him something, but he hadn't sold him anything. After Dale Carnegie trained him to refrain from talking and to avoid verbal fights, he became one of the best salesmen his company had ever seen. If someone said something like, "I don't want a White Motor truck. I'm going to go buy a truck from the competitor company," Patrick could agree with the customer that the competitor's truck was indeed a good truck and speak of its quality. This way, the customer couldn't keep on all afternoon saying the competitor's truck was the best when Patrick was agreeing with him. Then, of course, they got off the subject of the competitor truck and Patrick could begin to talk about the good points of the white motor trucks he was trying to sell. Hence, don't trust your first instinct when you feel an argument coming up. Sometimes we react harshly when we feel we have to defend ourselves on a certain point. Our first natural reaction in a disagreeable situation is to be defensive. Be careful, keep calm, control your temper, and watch out for your first reaction. Perhaps this disagreement is your opportunity to be corrected before you make a serious mistake. Distrust your first instinctive impression. Listen first. Give your opponents a chance to talk. Let them finish. Do not resist, defend, or debate. This only raises barriers. Instead, try to build bridges of understanding. Look for points and areas of agreement. Look also for areas where you can admit error and say so. Be honest. Apologize for your mistakes. It will help disarm your opponents and reduce defensiveness. Promise to think over your opponent's ideas and mean it. Your opponents may be right. It is a lot easier at this stage to agree to think about their points rather than to move rapidly ahead and find yourself later in a position where your opponents can say, "We tried to tell you, but you wouldn't listen." Postpone action to give both sides time to think through the problem. Suggest that a new meeting be held later. In preparation for this meeting, ask yourself some hard questions. Could my opponents be right? Is there truth in their position? Will my reaction drive my opponents further away or draw them closer to me? Will I win or lose? What price will I have to pay if I win the argument? Key lessons to take home from this fifth secret. A misunderstanding is never ended by an argument, but by tact, diplomacy, conciliation, and a sympathetic desire to see the other person's viewpoint. Secret number 6. If you are wrong, admit it quickly and emphatically. If we know we are going to be admonished anyhow, isn't it far better to beat the other person to it and do it ourselves? Isn't it much easier to listen to self-criticism than to bear condemnation from others about yourself? All the bad things you know the other person is thinking or wants to say them before that person has a chance to say them. The chances are 100 to 1 that a generous, forgiving attitude will be taken and your mistakes will be minimized. Dale Carnegie gives the example of what happened to himself to illustrate this point. He frequently walked in a neighbor park with his dog. The dog was friendly and harmless. Since they rarely met anyone in the park, the dog was without a leash or muzzle. One day, they encountered a mounted policeman in the park who wanted to show his authority. "What do you mean by letting that dog run loose in the park without a muzzle and leash?" he said. "Don't you know it's against the law?" "Well, yes, I know it is," Carnegie replied, "but I didn't think he'd do any harm out there. That dog might kill a squirrel or bite a child. I'm going to let you off this time, but if I catch this dog out here again without a muzzle unleashed, you'll have to tell it to the judge." Carnegie promised to obey and did obey for a few times, but the dog didn't like the muzzle, so he decided to take a chance. Everything was lovely for a while, and then one day, they arrived in front of the same policeman. Carnegie knew he was in for it, so he didn't wait until the policeman started talking. He said, "Officer, you've caught me red-handed. I'm guilty. I have no alibis, no excuses. You warned me last week that if I brought the dog out here again without a muzzle, you would fine me." The policeman responded in a soft tone, "Well, I know it's a temptation to let a little dog like that have a run out here when nobody's around." Carnegie replied, "But it is against the law." "Well, a little dog like that isn't going to harm anybody," the policeman replied. "Well, no, but he may kill squirrels," Carnegie said. "Well, now I think you're taking this a bit too seriously," the policeman said. "I'll tell you what you do. You just let him run over the hill, where I can't see him, and we'll forget all about it." That policeman, being human, wanted a feeling of importance. So when Carnegie began to condemn himself, the only way he could nourish his self-esteem was to take the generous attitude of showing mercy. Instead of arguing with him, Carnegie admitted that the policeman was absolutely right, and he was absolutely wrong. He admitted it quickly, openly, and with enthusiasm. The affair terminated graciously in Carnegie taking the policeman's side and the policeman taking Carnegie's side, while only a week previously he had threatened to have the law on him. Key lessons to remember. Be humble by saying critical things about yourself you know the other person wants to say or intends to say. Chances are they will then have a forgiving attitude towards you and minimize your mistakes in their minds. In addition, there's a certain degree of satisfaction in having the courage to admit one's errors. It not only removes guilt and defensiveness, but often helps solve the problem created by the error. Secret number 7. Let the other person feel that the idea is his or hers. Don't you have much more faith in ideas that you discover for yourself than in ideas that are handed to you on a silver platter? If so, isn't it bad judgment to try to force your opinions into other people's mind? Isn't it wiser to make suggestions and let the other person think out the conclusion? Let's take the case of Eugene Wesson to illustrate this. Mr. Wesson sold sketches for a studio that created designs for stylists and textile manufacturers. He had called on one of the leading stylists in New York once a week every week for 3 years. The stylist never refused to see Mr. Wesson, but he never bought any of his sketches. After 150 failures, Mr. Wesson decided on a new approach. He rushed over to the stylist's office with a few unfinished artist sketches under his arm and said, "Here's some uncompleted sketches. Won't you please tell me how we could finish them up in such a way that you could use them?" The buyer looked at the sketches for a while without saying a word. Finally, he said, "Leave these with me for a few days and then come back and see me." Mr. Wesson returned 3 days later, got his suggestions, took the sketches back to the studio, and had them finished according to the buyer's ideas. After that, this buyer ordered lots of other sketches from Mr. Wesson, all drawn according to his ideas. Mr. Wesson realized why he had failed for years to sell him sketches. He had urged the stylist to buy what he thought he ought to have. Then, with the new approach, he had urged him to give him his ideas. This made him feel that he was creating the designs. This way, Mr. Wesson didn't have to sell him, he bought. The key lessons from this secret are: most people prefer to feel that they are acting on their own ideas or buying on their own accord, not told or sold something. We like to be consulted about our wishes, our wants, our thoughts. Hence, it is better to let the person feel an idea is his or hers. Ask people for their ideas or advice about something. Now we will see part 4, how to be a leader and change people without giving offense or arousing resentment. But before, if you wish to receive all my private advices to go much further on entrepreneurship and personal development, you can sign up for free by clicking on the first link in the description of this video. Part 4. Be a leader. How to change people without giving offense or arousing resentment. Secret number 8. Talk about your own mistakes before criticizing the other person. Rightfully used, humility and praise can do miracles in human relations. Admitting one's own mistakes, even when one hasn't corrected them, can help convince somebody to change his or her behavior. This was illustrated by Clarence Serhusson when he discovered his 15-year-old son, David, was experimenting with cigarettes. Of course, he didn't want David to smoke, but both his mother and father smoked cigarettes and were giving him a bad example all the time. He explained to Dave how he started smoking at about his age and how the nicotine had gotten the best of him, and now it was nearly impossible for him to stop. He reminded him how irritating his cough was and how he had been after him to give up cigarettes not many years before. He didn't exhort Dave to stop or make threats or warn him about their dangers. All he did was point out how he was hooked on cigarettes and what it had meant to him. David thought about it for a while and decided he wouldn't smoke until he had graduated from high school. As the years went by, David never did start smoking and has no intention of ever doing so. As a result of that conversation, Clarence also made the decision to stop smoking cigarettes, and with the support of his family, he succeeded. The key lessons to take away from this secret are: it feels a lot better to hear someone talk about their faults and kind of get down on your level, in a sense, before they point out yours. Hence, as a leader, talk about your mistakes first. Admitting one's own mistakes, even when one has not corrected them, can help convince someone to change their behavior. Secret number 9. Praise the slightest improvement and praise every improvement. Praise people on their improvements. Words of praise can change someone's life. Give specific praise, not just short flattery. Let's see an example. Keith Roper applied this principle to a situation in his print shop. Some material came to him in his print shop, which was of exceptionally high quality. The printer who had done this job was a new employee who had been having difficulty adjusting to the job. His supervisor was upset about what he considered a negative attitude and was seriously thinking of terminating his services. When Mr. Roper was informed of this situation, he personally went over to the print shop and had a talk with the young man. He told him how pleased he was with the work he just received and pointed out it was the best work he had seen produced in that shop for some time. He pointed out exactly why it was superior and how important the young man's contribution was to the company. Within days, there was a complete turnabout of the young printer's attitude toward the company. He told several of his co-workers about the conversation, and how someone in the company really appreciated good work, and from that day on he was a loyal and dedicated worker. What Mr. Roper did was not just flatter the young printer and say you're good. He specifically pointed out how his work was superior, because he had singled out a specific accomplishment, rather than just making general flattering remarks. His praise became much more meaningful to the person to whom it was given. Everybody likes to be praised, but when praise is specific, it comes across as sincere, not something the other person may be saying just to make one feel good. The key lessons from this ninth secret are: abilities decline under criticism, they develop under encouragement. To become a more effective leader of people, apply secret number 9. Praise the slightest improvement and praise every improvement. Be enthusiastic in your approbation and generous in your praise. In a short moment, you will discover secret number 10, my favorite. But if you think the tips from Dale Carnegie can help you, I can only recommend you get the book, How to Win Friends and Influence People, for more details. I put a link in the description box below. Secret number 10. Make the fault seem easy to correct. Tell your child, your spouse, or your employee that he or she is stupid or dumb at a certain thing, has no gift for it, and is doing it all wrong, and you have destroyed almost every incentive to try to improve. But use the opposite technique. Be abundant with your encouragement. Make the thing seem easy to do. Let the other person know that you have faith in his ability to do it, that he has an undeveloped talent for it, and he will practice until dawn in order to excel. A friend of Dale Carnegie, about 40 years old, became engaged, and his fiancée persuaded him to take some dancing lessons. The first teacher he engaged said he was all wrong and would just have to forget everything and begin all over again. Guess what the effect of this had on him? Of course, it took the heart out of him. He had no incentive to go on, so he quit her. The next teacher may have been lying, but she said that his dancing was a bit old-fashioned perhaps, but the fundamentals were all right, and she assured him he wouldn't have any trouble learning a few new steps. The first teacher had discouraged him by emphasizing his mistakes. This new teacher did the opposite. She kept praising the things he did right and minimizing his errors. You have a natural sense of rhythm, she assured him. You really are a natural-born dancer. This encouraged him, gave him hope, made him want to improve. And even if she did not really mean it, he felt he became a better dancer than he would have been if she hadn't told him. The key lessons to remember from this are: praise someone's good points and minimize the person's faults. Use encouragement. Make the fault seem easy to correct. Let the other person know you have faith in them to get over that obstacle. You could say something like, all it would take is a little stuff and you could be great. If you like this video, you can watch this one, which is complimentary, and subscribe. Goodbye.